The Union Cabinet's approval of the One Nation, One Election Bill marks a turning point in India's democratic history. While proponents laud it as a step toward greater efficiency and cost saving, critics raise alarms about its potential to undermine the nation's federal structure. This initiative involves a significant overhaul of the electoral framework, requiring constitutional amendments, political consensus, and operational readiness. The financial burden of frequent elections is a primary concern. Conducting elections involves substantial spending on logistics, security, polling stations, and personnel. A synchronized election schedule could lead to significant cost reductions for the government and political parties alike. Frequent elections often impose the model code of conduct, halting policy announcements and development projects. This interrupts governance and delays decision-making. Unified elections would minimize these disruptions, ensuring a seamless implementation of policies. Improved administrative efficiency. Deploying security forces, managing polling booths, and coordinating logistics are resource-intensive activities. Simultaneous elections would streamline these processes, allowing administrative machinery to focus on governance, rather than constant election preparation. Political stability. Frequent elections perpetuate a cycle of short-term policy making, often influenced by immediate political gains. Simultaneous elections could encourage long-term planning and development, promoting a stable governance model. Electoral fatigue. Voters, officials, and political leaders face electoral fatigue due to the perpetual election cycle. A synchronized schedule would consolidate efforts, enhancing voter engagement and participation. Economic impact. The Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, highlights how frequent elections deter private investments and delay public projects. Simultaneous elections could mitigate these delays, boosting economic activity and creating jobs. Part 2. The disadvantages of one nation, one election. Erosion of federalism. India's federal structure is based on a balance of power between the central and state governments. Critics argue that simultaneous elections could centralize political discourse, overshadowing regional and local issues. States may lose their distinct political identities, undermining the diversity that defines Indian democracy. Operational challenges. Implementing synchronized elections is a logistical nightmare. With over 900 million eligible voters, ensuring adequate polling stations, security, and personnel simultaneously across the country is a Herculean task. Additionally, standardizing electoral rolls for all levels of elections poses significant challenges. Impact on regional parties. In a simultaneous election scenario, smaller regional parties fear being overshadowed by national-level issues. This could marginalize local voices, affecting representation and decision-making for state-specific concerns. Extended or curtailed tenures. To align election cycles, the tenure of some state assemblies would need to be extended or curtailed. This raises constitutional and ethical concerns, potentially undermining the democratic principle of fixed-term elections. Risk of national issues dominating. National narratives often dominate Lok Sabha elections, sidelining regional or local concerns. Simultaneous elections could exacerbate this trend, reducing the emphasis on issues critical to specific states or constituencies. Increased complexity. Simultaneous elections would require meticulous planning, from logistical arrangements to the deployment of security forces. Any lapses could lead to voter disenfranchisement, irregularities, or even security breaches. Political consensus. Building consensus among diverse political parties is a significant hurdle. Opposition parties including Congress, TMC, DMK, and others have vociferously opposed the idea, citing risks to democratic integrity. Part 3. Why the central government insists on this reform. Efficiency in governance. The central government emphasizes that simultaneous elections would eliminate distractions, allowing leaders to focus on governance rather than perpetual campaigning. This aligns with the BJP's vision of a unified governance model. Strategic advantage for BJP. The BJP's strong central leadership, extensive organizational network, and financial resources provide a strategic edge in simultaneous elections. National-level issues and the popularity of central leaders could boost the party's prospects across states. Economic justification. By presenting the economic benefits, such as cost savings and enhanced investments, the government seeks to position this reform as a necessity for India's development. Simplifying electoral processes. The central government argues that synchronized elections would streamline electoral management, reducing administrative burdens and enhancing efficiency. Striking a balance. The One Nation, One Election proposal is not without merit, but it requires a careful balancing act. Strengthening federalism. Mechanisms must be established to ensure regional and local issues are not overshadowed. Public consultations and state-specific manifestos could help. Incremental implementation. Instead of a nationwide rollout, the reform could be tested in select states to evaluate its feasibility. Safeguarding democracy. Extending or curtailing assembly terms must be handled with transparency, adhering to democratic principles. Political consensus. A collaborative approach involving all stakeholders, political parties, election commission, and civil society is essential to ensure the reform's success. One Nation, One Election is a visionary proposal that seeks to redefine India's electoral framework. While its advantages, in terms of cost efficiency, governance, and stability, are compelling, the challenges it poses to federalism, representation, and logistical feasibility cannot be overlooked. For this reform to succeed, it must strike a delicate balance between efficiency and inclusivity, ensuring that India's diverse democracy thrives. The road ahead demands robust dialogue, transparent processes, and a commitment to the nation's democratic ideals. This proposal, if implemented correctly, has the potential to transform Indian politics, but only with the consensus and trust of all stakeholders involved.